I'm Mike Little. I'm the co-founder of WordPress, and I'm now run my own company doing purely WordPress development. Mostly, I'm just a one-man band, but I do work with partners who are kind of experts in their fields. And yeah, WordPress pays the mortgage for me.
And you started WordPress like 8 years ago now.
Yeah.
Did you think then that it would come this far?
Oh, absolutely no. It was just something that seemed the right thing to do with the history of B2 and Michel disappearing as he was, and it just seemed the right natural thing to do to fork the software. It's something I've always been a huge fan of, the GPL.
Yeah.
And so I knew that was just a natural thing to do from that, and it really just escalated and got really big. Really
got
big, very
huge.
Quickly, yes.
How does it feel to have been like at the start of that?
It's wonderful. It makes me really proud. I love the fact that WordPress empowers people to have a voice on the web, and in some small ways, in certain corners, it's actually having political effect. People in oppressed countries are getting a voice.
Yeah.
Before the cut-off, sometimes WordPress.com, for example, is not available in certain countries now because it gives people a free voice.
Yeah.
I just love what it does and how it allows people to have that voice.
And how is it? When you started working with Matt, I guess, over in America, how was that kind of working overseas back in 2002 with such a long distance?
It was fairly natural, actually, just simply because I've been around the open source world and worked with where sometimes the only communication was mailing lists. It did work quite well. One interesting incident, early days of WordPress, was one time, I think it was Skyping or IRCing with Matt and a couple of other people, talking something about WordPress, and it turned out that I think it was the other 3 or 4 people in the conversation were all sat around the same table in a cafe talking to me. So they were almost talking to each other over their computers from opposite sides of the table, so that I could be part of the conversation in Manchester. So
wow.
That was odd.
Wow.
That was quite odd.
And are you pleased with the developments that have been made?
Oh, absolutely, and I wish I could take some credit for how good WordPress is these days, but I'm not actively involved from day to day with it. And just there's some wonderful things been done with the team of developers there, Ryan and Nathan and Matt himself, and a whole team of real experts are just taking it beyond anything that we could have imagined at the beginning.
And is there any bits of it? 3.2 has just come out.
Mm-hmm.
And what aspects of that do you like the most? Like where it is now?
Generally, I love the fact that the hooks are now in place for developers to do some wonderful things with WordPress. So the custom post types and custom taxonomies, the APIs are really maturing now. 2011 is a great exemplar theme for how to do things and how to get the most out of WordPress. And it's got a lovely slick interface. It is easy to use. I would love the accessibility to be a bit better on the back end, but they've got it sorted on the front end. It's pretty good. So it's just a fantastic thing.
I was going to ask you actually about what improvements you would like to see. So there's accessibility.
Yes. Yeah.
How do you think that could be improved?
Well, it is actually being improved. There's definitely more and more steps in place, and the developers are understanding more about what needs to be done. It can be an odd conflict, so you do get conflict between wanting it to be slick and easy, very much Ajaxified and things hiding and appearing when they need to. In contrast to somebody using a screen reader or other assistive technology, it can be quite difficult to marry the two up. But the guys are making steps in that direction. It's definitely getting better. I think the widget screen, for example, has a non-Ajax mode. So it makes it so that at least you can use it with a keyboard and not need the mouse and so on. So the improvements are coming, and they are aware of that, and it's opening it up to more people and giving more people a voice, and very often some of the people, blind users for example, are people who feel isolated and want to have a voice on the net, and so being able to do that with WordPress is fantastic.
Great. And is there other improvements you'd like to see?
To be honest, no, I don't know where it's going to go next. I mean, I know there's been a big speed improvement in 3.2, which is great. So that was probably one of the last niggling issues, was that sometimes it was a bit slow, particularly on the back end. But I'm just waiting to see where it goes next, to be honest. It is exciting, yeah.
Can I ask you a little bit about WordCamp?
Sure.
There's about 200 people here.
Yes, yeah, great turnout.
What do you think is distinctive about the UK WordPress community?
The fact that we've turned up in a different city every year, I think it's been different, which has almost ensured a different audience every time. I haven't been to any other WordCamp, so it is difficult to say what is better. But certainly, it's a wonderful, friendly atmosphere. It's really, really good. I dragged my stepson along to last year's one in Manchester, and one of the things he said to me about halfway through the first day was, he said, I could never have envisaged that people who are effectively rivals in business would stand up and tell each other how to be good at it and what the best things to do are. And he said, I'd never imagined that in any other kind of industry. So that's just an outsider's view of how sharing we are and how good the community is, and that's fantastic. And we've seen lots more of that this weekend.
This year you've been running things for beginners.
Yes.
And is that something that's developed over the 4 years?
Certainly last year we actually did have a few beginners, and some of the feedback we got that there wasn't enough for beginners, for people who just got into WordPress or just heard about WordPress, and a lot of it was quite high level. There was quite a lot of techie stuff. So this year we made a deliberate effort to separate the two streams completely. So one stream is very much techie, one stream is much higher level businessy, even in some places. And then I resolved, if nobody else did, to explicitly include some beginner stuff. So I ran the beginner course yesterday and found a free slot to run it again today and take it a little bit further.
So would you encourage more beginners to come maybe next year?
Yeah, we definitely, it got such good reception to this, so we definitely want to do beginner stuff again next year. And maybe some intermediate stuff as well, to just take people from beyond being a beginner to how to get more out of it.
So how do you think people who are a bit more advanced, like developers and designers, how could they get involved to help you to facilitate beginners?
Just by volunteering to run a session. So I had a chap who helped me run the first session that I did, and he talked a little bit techie about setting up WordPress on your local machine so you can play with it and not be public while you're doing so. So that was quite good, but he didn't get too techie, just sort of covered the highlights of it. For anybody really who wants to help out and volunteer to run a session next year, or even others. We've got rumours of other WordCamps in the UK running at different times of the year, so that'd be good. So perhaps some smaller local ones, and just turn up and take somebody through the beginnings, or take somebody through the beginnings of creating your own theme or whatever your specialisation is. There's always knowledge you can impart to other people.
And you're doing a session with the local group leaders, and Tony said yesterday that you're looking to help support local groups.
Yes.
I was wondering how you're going to do that in the future.
Well, certainly in today's session we're going to talk about good things to help get your group going and how to sustain it and things like that. But also we've had such generosity from sponsors this year that we're going to have money left over, and we're definitely going to look at how we can invest that in local meetups, whether it's hiring a room for your first one, or one suggestion was giving away free coffee and donuts to encourage people to turn up to a new one, or even perhaps putting something towards expenses for speakers to go and talk and draw a bit of a crowd in, just we're looking for ideas, and we'll hopefully some will turn up at the session, but we've got a bit of budget left over, and that's exactly what we set up to do, was, as well as facilitate the annual WordCamp, was to help local groups and promote WordPress wherever we can.
Great. Well, just one more question. if you like daydreaming about where WordPress might be in 5 years, do you have like an ideal like daydream about where it might be?
It's not so much a daydream or an ideal, but where I think it's going. I think there's going to be an increase in vertical use of WordPress. So people putting together specialised packages based on WordPress. So it might be WordPress with a selection of custom themes for the real estate business with all the plugins all pre-installed and pre-configured, so that you get a much bigger out-of-the-box experience for your particular area. I've seen people doing that kind of thing a little bit with churches, for example, and I think there's going to be more of that as people start to really specialise in what they do with WordPress, get the most out of it in their niche, and then realise that they've effectively created a package that they can sell on to other people or provide to other people and help them set it up and so on.
And one more question. Do you have a favourite plugin or theme?
I don't really. Bizarrely, I don't. I use a number of the standard ones. But no, I can't say I've got a favourite. I've got a few standard ones that I kind of always install, caching and Akismet and contact forms and so on. But I don't really have any favourites. It's my clients differ for it so much that they usually end up with a completely different set of plugins for whatever I build for them, or custom, which is what I specialise.